went through each jungle deep for the paradise that we'd to see. 'Twas no trip for the weak, we're waltzing with the natives. Na 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 na.
I met my love by the gasworks wall. I dreamed a dream by the old canal. I kissed my girl by the factory wall. Dirty hotel, dirty hotel. The clouds are drifting across the moon. The cats are prowling on the beat. Springs a girl from the streets at night. Dirty old town, dirty old town. I heard a sighing from the door. Saw a train set the night on fire. I smelled the spring and the smoky wind. Dirty old town, dirty old town. I'm gonna make me a big sharp eyes, shining steel, tempered in the fire. I'll chop you down like an old dead tree. Dirty old town.
Hello everybody, how we all doing? Welcome back to the Celtic Corner. Myself and Corey join you today, and we're joined by a very special guest. It's Shay. For anybody who doesn't know Shay, he's a big Celtic fan. He does a podcast called Pyramid Promotions, which I've been lucky to be on with him in Brooklyn. He also is a musician. And so I was really excited to talk to you, Shay. How you getting on, pal?
I'm good. Thanks very much for having me on. Obviously, it's the first time I've actually been invited onto like a podcast and stuff, so it's a wee bit of a buzz, but no, feeling good. What about yourselves?
Very good, mate. I really enjoyed being on your podcast a few months ago. You're celebrating, like I say. I mean, these are knowledgeable guys. It was a real joy to talk to you, Mike, because sometimes you'll go on these podcasts or you'll watch podcasts and that, and you know the guys don't really know what they're talking about. I'm not going to lie. I watch a lot of podcasts, and I'm like, no. But you're selling brutal, man. You can tell you do your research, and he's right into it, man. You enjoyed it, still doing that, aye?
I'm still doing it. We're enjoying it. I mean, it's another guy, so it's under Pyramid Promotions, but that actually does like 3 different football shows. So people will cover like the Lowland League. There was 2 guys that was meant to cover like the Championship to League 2, but they've been unable to do it much. But we've been asked to continue with it next year, so hopefully next year going ahead, at least once a month or something we can get a guest on. But it is good, and we do our research. But I do remember, I think I said to you at the time, I was a bit of a Bainiac. I did like Scott Bain, but ever since I've said that, he's had a mistake every single game. So I think his World Cup chances are getting lower and lower.
I'm pretty sure I called you out on that one, did I not? Saying that, Scott Bain's a bit of a donkey, man. I'm sorry, he is. You know what I mean? He definitely is. But I say that to everybody. Like, our manager in work's a Falkirk fan. And I keep saying to him and all that, he's an absolute donkey, do you know what I mean? He's like, that's Scotland's number 1 you're talking about, you know what I mean? But he can't be going to a World Cup for us, man. He just can't, mate.
I know. I think that's what's mad. Like, you are looking at a situation that any goalkeeper you take isn't playing for their their team, which is absolutely nuts. But I think if Gordon's fit, he probably will give it to Gordon. But I'll get Bane on the back of the t-shirt anyway. I'll not complain.
Thing is, like, Craig Gordon, he's 42-year-old man. He's not been playing. That's a
know.
major risk, I know. But as you say, there's nobody else.
I know. I think as well, like, if you put Gordon in and he makes a mistake, I don't think people will criticise him as much because you look at it and go, the saves and performances he had over the years. Whereas if he did fling a Scott Bain in and he made an absolute howler, he's going to just get criticised for that straight away. But it is a
Aye.
big decision anyway, whoever he puts in.
Aye, you can't be putting Scott Bain in there. But anyway, how did the podcast come about, mate? How did that even start?
So originally I had another podcast which is slowly coming back. That's called Any Excuse for a Podcast. That was just me and my mate Jordan, and that's like we just have everybody named on that. We were talking one day. We only knew each other through playing football. I used to play football, but I ended up playing for like a Sunday league team, and he played for it. And one day he was like that, or somebody told like he could talk quite well, and just he's got good knowledge in football and on random stuff. And he asked me if I wanted to do a podcast with him, and I said I'd be up for it. And then that took off. And the guy that does Pyramid Promotions knows Jordan, and Jordan went, "This boy will be good for the Premiership channel." And the guy who runs Pyramid Promotions, I've only ever met him once, but yet we text every single week about the show and stuff like that. So it really just came round from another podcast opportunity. But I think this will be the first full season we've done it. And it's been an absolute mad season to do it on, but I've enjoyed it, and it's good. It is a bit tough, like being a Celtic fan, and if you go into it after a defeat, you can't be annoyed. You need to kind of keep your head up and go on with it. But then the show after the time we won on penalties at Ibrox, I definitely enjoyed that one. So it has its moments anyway.
I don't think me and you.
When it comes to that, I'm just a Debbie Downer.
I was just going to say it. I was literally just about to say that. I was going to say the Beatties, though. You know what I mean? The two is like, I don't think we're very good at hiding that, are we?
No, you are more optimistic, but I'm just like, nah, it's shite. It's shite, mate. I don't accept it. I don't accept
That's what makes it. But I don't know if you've seen the clip of the Liverpool fan when they were 1-0 down to PSG last week. They were like, I think we'll win this game. And in the same clip, PSG score. And then the guy just goes, "Oh, that aged like milk." But I think stuff like that is good because you see like Arsenal TV and stuff like that. It's just fake reactions, but the thing is, it gets clicks. But I would rather tune in to watch yous absolutely raging than being fake about it. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. That reminds me, like when me and Corey, it was a few months ago when Wilfred Nancy was the manager, and we had a wee bit of ding dong, didn't we, on off the underside about.
I still stand by that.
But it was like, and that done well in that. But you were a wee bit kind of like, I don't like that. You know what I mean?
I'm not confrontational. So see, when I do get angry, either one, I stutter. So I'm just like, I fucking shut the fuck up. I don't argue well, and after when I do it, I feel rotten. I'm like, he's going to take that in a huff. So I've texted him, and then after 2 seconds later, he's like, mate, that was class. But
Aye.
I don't know
You
how
need-
I
you
feel
need
about it.
that
I don't know.
sometimes. Aye.
I mean,
Aye.
like when when you say, you know what I mean, that's what people want to watch. When we're sitting having a debate on the podcast and that, I enjoy that kind of thing because it's like, I'm thinking of people watching this will enjoy that. I don't want to just us agreeing on everything and you know what I mean, and everything going smoothly all the time and that. So I enjoy that kind of thing.
See
Yeah,
when
people-
you rewatch it, see when you rewatch it, both of us are actually agreeing. There's just two different sides of the same argument. You're just
Aye.
saying the manager was shite, and I'm saying the players are shite, and both of us are like, no. I'm like, no, the players are shite. He's like, no, the manager's shite, and I'm agreeing with him.
Aye,
He's
but
agreeing with me. But just shouting
Okay.
each other. Like,
It kind of was like, I think I was at the point of view, right, you're letting the manager away with this, and you're like, to me, I think you were thinking you're letting the players away with this.
Yeah,
Aye,
and
so-
both of us are arguing the same argument. And there's David just in gas week, and you're like, you shut up and all. We'll carry on.
You get that, but like people say that to me in Brooklyn. They're like, you need to start disagreeing, and you need to say something mental to get clicks, and I'm like that. But it's hard to fake disagree on something, To be fair, I mean, people are probably surprised when it comes to a Celtic and a Rangers fan, but even like after some of the Celtic Rangers games, like we've agreed on pretty much every decision, and if the referee's made a mistake, we agree that it's a mistake. It is very rare that we've disagreed on something, but people say you need to disagree, but you can't fake something. I don't think. I
No.
think people can tell when you're faking. But I think the only thing he does get annoyed at me at, I try my best to not call it an old firm. But I still do it by habit, but I force myself not to say it to annoy him.
It's,
Aye.
it's the same with David, to be fair. Like, say, if we say, oh, we seen it from this point of view, he wouldn't necessarily do, oh, that's a lot of shit. He'd be like, no, aye, fair enough. He would turn around and say, use a pish. But at the end of the day, he'll be like, I can see where you're coming from, aye, that, blah, blah, blah. But you always end it with, I use a shite. We could have won that game 4-0 and it would still be use a pish.
Aye, definitely. But it's just you can't really fake the disagreements and that. If you agree on something, you agree on something. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah.
But was it always an ambition to be on a podcast, mate? Or, I know you get approached about it and stuff, but did you always want to do that kind of thing?
I think I always it's something, I don't know why. I think when I was younger I always wanted to be like a commentator or something. I always wanted to do something like sort of media. And then I kind of seen that people were only really getting these opportunities for going to like university and stuff like that, and I wasn't smart enough for that. So I did always like interviewing people and the thought of that, being able to talk to people, and that's what I like about podcasts as well. Like, so let's just say in Scotland, for example, you could have like, my favourite musician is Paolo Nutini, right? You could have Paolo Nutini on, but then you could have a guy for the scheme on, and that gets more of a reaction than Paolo Nutini because it's stories that people actually connect with, and they tell stories that these well-known people would never ever tell, even if it happened to them. So it's something I've always really enjoyed. And then, as I said, I know it can sometimes be tough, but after every weekend, being able to actually like put something out there talking about football where I do like it when you put a wee clip on TikTok and people laugh and react at you going, this guy's an idiot, this guy's a nutter, because it does just show you, like, I don't think that I'm always right, but some people out there, they think their opinion is the right opinion. And I think putting that out there, when the comments start going and 6 people in the comments agree with you, but then another 10 don't, it excites me because it means your opinion is getting to people, and and it might change somebody's opinion on something as well. So that's what I really like. And it's always been something I'd love to do, and I'm glad I'm getting the chance to do it. Aye.
Aye, you're spot on, mate. And see the point you made there about the guests and stuff like it, Paolo Nutini or somebody else, whatever. That I think we can relate to that, Corey, because sometimes, and it's not an arrogant thing. Like, we've just been very lucky with guests early on. You know what I mean? We got like Mark Warburton, Graham Murray, and stuff like that, and guys we never ever thought we would get, like Murdo McLeod and all that. And then these other guys were kind of cropping up, and you're like, I was kind of like, right, okay, we'll talk to them and stuff, but it's like not as exciting as like they kind of guys, and they've turned out to be the best ones.
Aye.
The ones that we've spoke to, and we're just like, what a guy, man! I didn't realise so much about him. I didn't understand. I didn't quite click on to just how successful he was, or all his background or stuff like that. Innit, Corey?
It's like Graham Ricks. That I didn't know too much about him, but see, talking to him and all that, you're like, he's fucking been in World Cups. He's played with good Arsenal teams and stuff like that. You're like, that's mental. Even like Graham Murray and all, like you mentioned, that when we talked to him, even his playing career, I was like, he was in with
Aye.
Reading when they got to the Premier League and stuff like that. And I'm like,
The Phil
fucking
Brown one
right.
as well.
Aye,
I thought was because like I only know Phil Brown with the age I am. I only know Phil Brown as that famous thing where Jimmy Bullard done the celebration. That's how I know Phil Brown. So when you've got him on, and I was watching and stuff, and I was like, you actually you don't take into consideration the careers these people have had. As you said, it's madness.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. And like I say, some of the other ones, like ones that stick in my mind is like even just like recently, like Ricky Waddle and that. You know what I mean? The career he had in Scotland and that, and then he's just left Caledonian Braves there and stuff, and like, right, keep a wee eye on his career now and all that. And he was just such a nice guy and that. So like, I'm not going to be arrogant about it at all, man. I'm just going to ask anybody who's willing to come on and tell a story, and because it's brilliant just to talk to people. Do you know what I mean?
Have you ever had people like I mean, I asked a boy on the other week on the other podcast I do, and he does property, and he gave me a no straight away, and I loved that. Like, don't say I'll let you know. Have you ever had a few people that have just given you a no straight away?
Definitely, mate.
I've had one recently. It was
Who
Alan
about him?
Thompson.
Alan Thompson.
Aye.
What did
Um,
it?
He just said, no, I'm not doing podcast, but I think he's turned into pure God because there's that after every message. I'm like, oh, well, you've been hanging about Celtic a wee bit too long, I think.
I think when it comes to asking people and stuff like that, I would prefer a no than just to be ignored. I don't mind being ignored because it is what it is. Do you know what I mean? People are just maybe busy or whatever. But like Bert Corterman, for instance, just said no, thank you, not something I'm interested in. And I was like, okay, fair enough, mate. Do you know what I mean? And there's been some other ones in that I've just said, listen, it's not something. Who was the other one? Lee Wilkie was another one that said, listen, thanks very much for the offer, but you know, it's not really something that I do. I'm not really comfortable doing that kind of thing. Like, they bother me. You know
We
what I
had
mean?
a
And
guy, I'll not say his name here, but it's one of these. But we asked him on, and sadly, the venue we were using, we actually filmed the other podcast in our studio. They had to cancel, but we let him know in advance a couple of days. So we went to get him on again, but then I understand it. But on the day of it, say we were filming at 4 o'clock, we had to let him know at 9 o'clock they cancelled. But you would, I think, the way the guy on, you would have thought he was pulling a teeny, and I'll tell you something right now, he wasn't, right? And he charged us. He asked us for 70 quid, and obviously I was like, I understand we've kind of had to reschedule, but like we had Sanjeev Kohli on who played Naveed for still game. And we still filmed these in Dumbarton, and all these people we got on are from like Glasgow, West End. Nobody ever charges a penny. And this guy who was like, I'll not say his name. I could tell he's
I
after, but
know that level anyway.
he's no. I don't even think he's played it in like the tiny stage at Transmit. Do you know what I mean? And he charged us 70 quid. But you then don't want to give yourself a bad name by letting somebody down. So we did give him it just for a wee thanks. But you get people are different, I suppose.
The weirdest one for me, asking people was Tam Cowan. Remember that? Because it was like months. Like I messaged him, and it was like he seen it. Then after it was months later, he was like, "I will do it." Then it was like months later that, "Oh, when do you want to do it?" And he's going to just turn around like, "Aye, no board, just stringing me along." But that ended up being pretty decent getting to the BBC studios and all that. But that felt like pure months. I'm like, he's not replying. I haven't messaged him. He's like, "Well, just message him back." But I was like, "What do I do? Just question marks?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm not messaging him back. Fuck that."
I think it just kind of these guys, like I say, I've got busy lives and that, and you know, quite willing to just admit that you know we're no top of their priorities and stuff. But
Yeah.
as long as they get back to you and you know give you a wee bit of their time at some point, that's fine by me. But let's get to Celtic, mate, because that's where you're on the Celtic Corner. That's the big topic of what we talk about, mate. And you're a big Celtic fan. How did that come about, mate?
So my mum and dad, mad Celtic fans. I was actually talking about that with them the other day. I was two, when Seville happened, and they went to it. And the other day, I just sat and thought, what did you actually do with me when you went? And so they just obviously get my granny babysit me for the whole time we're away. But Celtic's a very Celtic daft family, and I've had a season ticket for God knows how long. You know, I went with my dad originally, then got a season ticket in the Ronnie Dyla era with my pals, and now I'm back with going up with my dad and my girlfriend and stuff. So it's just a Celtic daft family on both sides.
I was just going to say two when Seville happened. I know I was young, but Jamie, you
Just
must
makes
have
me feel
fucking
old, man.
ancient, man.
My Seville story is I was what year was that? 2002, three. So
2003,
I
yeah.
was 2003. So I was 17, and I drank 10 bottles of Smirnoff Ice in the first half because I was that nervous. I had a case of Smirnoff Ice, and I was just like tanning it, and like they were all sitting next to me. My mum was like, "It's half time. You've drank already." You know what I mean? I was still young, 17-year-old and all that, and I was like, I need to go and get more. And I went around and got another couple of beers and all that and brought it on. Obviously, the disappointment of that, but to think of you being to me, that's made me feel old.
It's sad because a couple of years ago at the Hydro, when Celtic done the Player of the Year awards there, Henrik Larsson came out, and obviously I was alive, I was a kid, but I could not tell you a game where I seen Henrik Larsson play like memorably. And my dad was like, it's sad you'll never see anything like that. I think the closest I've got is maybe a Kyogo. I would probably maybe even say a Dembele. I still loved Moussa Dembele, but it is sad that, you know what, the way football's went, never mind Celtic, I'll probably never see a European final. But I was that young and never got to see a greater team as that. But I have just been. I wish one day I got something even the level of Seville. I mean, it's mad. You would have, the way people go on about Seville, you would have thought Celtic won it, and I think that's
Right.
absolutely mental.
That was,
You never know, mate. I mean, at the end of the day, like Rangers got there only a few years ago, and you never know. We might go on a cup run at some point, and whether it's even if it's a Europa League, Conference League, or whatever. You know what I mean? We've got the Conference League now, so we get another chance of that. But we can know the way we're playing right enough. You know what I mean? It's no much chance of that. But
mine was just Coat Bridge. I just remember that being deserted. Like there was nobody in the streets.
Was
And
it?
there was, not a person. I was just walking about. I was about what, 7, and I was walking about the day of, and I'm like, it feels like nobody's here. And they're all in fucking Seville. And I think I had a chance to go to Seville, but my mum wasn't letting me. And I think that was the first time my mum heard me swear and all. I'm like greeting and all that. They're cheating bastards. Like, I'm fucking up to the end of them. Cheating bastards.
you weren't. By the way, you were only 7.
I was,
What year were you born?
no, 10, sorry. Oh,
10.
9,
I don't
10,
try and
9,
take
10.
years off. Don't try
9
and
or
take
10.
years off, mate.
9 or 10. Oh,
God's
9 or
sake,
10.
man.
mad.
I've already been
Like,
stung by fucking 2-year-old. Now I mean, 7.
like,
Nine's
see,
bad
even
enough.
like, I went to a Rab Douglas night, right? I got it from my dad. There's a in Dumbarton where I play after the Old Firms. There's a Celtic club. And they do speakers nights. Like Scott Brown was just there recently, but there was a Rab Douglas night on. But I got it for my dad, and that's what I'm saying. Like Rab Douglas even said it himself. Like he wasn't the greatest of goalkeepers, and obviously I never knew much about that because I was young. But he'll always be remembered for that Seville team. And like even he said that he was. I think he played a game at Ibrox, and it was free each, and he said, "Oh, I chucked in 2 of the goals." But like, see if any other goalkeeper said that, like folk wouldn't laugh. But you're just like, it's Rab Douglas. He was a Seville legend. You know what I mean? But it's mad, like just seeing players that are that adored by like my dad and my mum and stuff. It's madness.
I think you would compare Rab Douglas to these days because he was a steady goalkeeper, but he did have a wee mistake in him and that. But I suppose every goalkeeper's like that, isn't it, really?
Aye.
Scott Bain.
No, he was better than Scott
He's
Bain.
just a
He's
taller
just straight
Scott
up.
Bain.
He's world class, Scott Bain. You couldn't compare Rab Douglas to him.
Fair enough.
Rab Douglas
I
was
agree.
10 times the fucking goalie as Scott Bain.
But that's just mad as well. But when I think of Rab Douglas, I think him playing for Dundee because he played for Dundee when I was remembering to start watching football. And then as time goes on, I'm like, oh wait, he was in that Seville squad. So it's generation is just a big king in football. It's madness.
I remember Brad Douglas. I've got a memory of Parkhead when he gets sent off for Dundee, and then I think it was I'm trying to think who the player, but an outfield player had to go in and replace him because I don't know if they just ran out of subs or whatever. But I remember Rab Douglas getting sent off for Dundee at Parkhead, man. That was my earliest memory of him. But he was a good goalkeeper, man. That night in Valencia, which people talk about and stuff, he was outstanding that night where he kept a clean sheet, man, and you know. But aye, he was a decent enough goalie. But what is your earliest memories then? Like Celtic and what kind of players do you remember then? You mentioned Dembele there.
So going back for, I always remember. It's weird how you just do remember it, but I can literally remember the night we won the league away to Dundee United. And I think it was Hesselink scored from a Paul Hartley corner. And sometimes I'm weird like that. I'll just string like fucking facts out like that. But I just remember watching that on my TV with my mum in the living room going absolutely mental. And I think it cut to Aberdeen beating Rangers 2-0. And it was pretty much all but confirmed. And they had the Tommy Burns t-shirts on. So I always remember that. I loved, I mean, see, that's what I'm saying, but at the time, I never knew what he'd done before he came to Celtic. But I loved Scott McDonald, but I never knew that he scored the 2 goals to stop us to win the league because I was that young. But Scott McDonald, Nakamura as well. I always remember that it's like literally a flashback. I remember on TV his volley going in against Rangers. And the living room just going absolutely mental. So I do remember wee bits like that. But like going to the games, my earliest memory is probably like kind of the Mowbray era. Like I think he's passed away now, but remember Nguemo in the middle of the park, Landry Nguemo?
Aye.
I remember having him on the back of my top and stuff. It's Tony Mowbray's team. I sort of remember actually going to games and seeing, which obviously once again wasn't a great season under him.
I don't want to speak ill of the dead or anything like that, but you know how you've got these players that you just couldn't stand sometimes. I say like Jersey, I thought he was terrible, man. I thought
him.
Nguemo was.
People
Oh,
say a lot of good things that people when he trained with him, like he had like, an injury and that on him, but I always just I don't know why. I think I think he was number 6, and I think I liked the number 6 or something, but I don't actually remember him as
I
a player.
liked him.
oh mate, he was poor, man. Nah, he was poor, mate.
But I think
He
it was
gave the
that
ball away
Mowbray
all the
team. I
time.
was just trying to pick who's good. And I'm like, maybe like odds number 6. I liked Bobo back in the day.
Do you remember? I remember I had the Bumblebee kit, and I had do you remember Danny Fox, the left back? I had him on the
Aye.
back. I
Aye.
remember him.
What happened to him? He just left, didn't he?
I
Just
don't think he
randomly.
was that great. I should probably stop getting players on the back of my kits. I don't think he was that great at all.
It's funny you're mentioning these players, but because that, like, see if anybody was to say to me, right, who's 2 players over the years that you've really disliked at Celtic, and one is Nguemo, right, and one is actually Hesselink. I thought Hesselink was very overrated, by the way. See if you, I remember watching him week in, week out, and he was always offside, and he was always fouling people. And obviously,
Yeah,
people will
that's it.
remember his goals and that, and the goals he scored against Rangers and that last minute goal. And
Yeah.
as you mentioned, the goal at Paradise, and then you know his goals against Man United and that. But see, overall, man, Hesselink wasn't a good football player. By the way.
It's
He
because they
wasn't.
came up with the goals. That's why
Aye.
people hold them in high regard. But that
You
old
could probably
firm was-
what you said there. I literally just thought of Chara straight away, except without the goals.
That's pretty
He's
much
all-
it, mate. That is pretty much it.
Aye. He's always like a yard behind the balls getting crossed into the box and stuff. But that's the thing. I just remember seeing the players. I was too young to tell you if they were actually good at playing football. Do you know what I mean? But obviously, like that sort of teaming, like for some reason, like, I kind of remember like random players as well. Like, I know this is a few generations on, but like even players like Thomas Rogner, I pure remember players like that, and people will be like, "What? Who?" and then like Hinkle and stuff. But I always remember the first season because once again I remember watching on TV ESPN. I think it was St Mirren 4, Celtic 0 under Mowbray.
Aye.
I remember that game.
I think he did get sacked after that, but I always remember
did.
that game. I always remember that.
That was
Aye,
the
that was-
first game I remember my dad turning off the telly. I think it was just as St Mirren scored. It was just like, right, football's done for the day. And just walking well, there's
Well,
about
there's-
20 minutes left. He's like, I know. He's
There's
just
a St
walking away
Mirren
like
player.
it's not happening.
I won't mention any names, right? But I might get away if I tell her a story. But I get, knows if I feel wild, don't really watch it anyway. But there's a St Mirren player who played that night against Celtic, and he was a heating engineer now. I think he's moved. He was a heating engineer, and knew he's something else, right? And I remember him coming into my work, and he was saying to me, remember the centre half Josh Thompson at Celtic?
Aye.
Said he's the worst player he's ever played against. Said he was
Really?
terrible. He was like, aye. He's like, that is, he said that he didn't know what he was doing. He was like, headless chicken all night and all that, and we just battered them. So, Josh Thompson was another terrible player, man.
I remember
Aye.
him. He was pish. He was pish.
But that, you know, what Mowbray tried to do that season was he tried to bring in, I think he tried to do, similar to what Russell Martin tried to do at Rangers this season, bring in players for the Championship and stuff like that in League One in England, bring them up here and, you know, you mentioned Danny Fox there. You know, there was like Fortuny.
Aye.
You know, guys like that didn't cut it in England. They came up here and they still didn't cut it, and it didn't work. You know what I mean? And that is pretty much, you know, the guys I mentioned. You know, Josh Thompson's another one. He signed him in Stockport. I don't even know where he got him. I think he went to Stockport after us and that. But just a poor player that just didn't work, man. That idea doesn't work.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of players that I kind of on some podcasts I watch, they do say it was maybe the wrong time for Tony Mowbray. Like his ideas were good, but it does just show you at a club like Celtic and stuff, you don't actually get time. But I still somewhat don't believe that because he's done all right everywhere he went after, but it's not like a good enough all right to like you still should have been the Celtic manager. He should have never been in charge. And as you say, I always remember. It's mad how I can remember it, but I always remember. Do you remember Fortuny's goal against Motherwell? Outside the box, top corner. I always remember he scored an
Aye.
absolute.
Aye.
He came on as like a sub, and he
Aye.
scored an absolute belter. I think he also did score against Rangers as well, but by that point, the
Aye.
league's already won. I'm sure. But a lot of poor signings in that squad anyway.
I've seen the video on YouTube. I think it's the Rangers fans are all singing. It's in Parkhead, and Fortune he scores. He does
Aye.
that stupid celebration. I still don't get what he meant, but he done it all the time. I'm like,
I'm
what the fuck
Shay,
you writing?
probably.
Aye, and then after I just remember it was South Park going mental, but you were right. The league was done. It was just kind of bragging rights, like let's get the win.
The thing is as well though, Tony Mowbray was lucky enough to have Robbie Keane for 6 months, and I was going to the games home and away at that point, and you know, I remember going to Tannadice and we scored. I can't remember who scored. I think it might have been Fortuny that scored actually early on, and then as the game went on, Dundee United just get merry into it and beat us. And I was like, just walking away from Tannadice, everybody's coming out of the stadium like this kid's got to go. Do you know what I mean? And that was, I think that wasn't long before St Mirren. Do you know what I mean? It was maybe a few weeks before it and that. But and then there was a game I'm talking. We went to Pataudry, and I think we were 4-2 up at one point. Robbie Keane got a couple, and then that remember that big striker that played for St Johnstone and that, what was his name again? I can't remember his name, man. He ended up becoming the manager for a wee short period of time a few years ago. But he came on. Stephen McLean.
Aye,
Stephen McLean.
aye.
He came on and scored a couple of goals, man, 4 each. Again, everybody's walking away raging and that. But and then you judge Tony Mowbray what he done in Europe and that. It was just we were getting beaten Europa League and it was just garbage, man.
Yeah.
Just wasn't good enough. But
Aye,
aye, that was day times. But aye, so you mentioned Nakamura, mate. He must have been one of your favourites growing up, surely. What a player, man.
Aye, it was unreal. I always remember that goal for the TV, and then you would go to the back and try it, and you were never ever going to get it. Plus, you were also probably 10 yards closer to the goal when the goalkeeper in. But aye, some of these goals were incredible. And then like, I always remember I was at a game. See, I don't know who this would have been under, but it might have been Strachan. But there was always a game where I think they played St Mirren at home, and it was 7-0. I think Mark Crosas scored in the game as well, and Nakamura scored a free kick, and like you just knew he was going to score it, and I couldn't imagine it like that now. I mean, even when a Celtic player's in front of a goal, you know they're going to miss. Never mind a player be and then that clip of him scoring away to Kelly to win the league in the last minute, like just stuff like that. Like looking back, everything looks so nostalgic. Like you know that kit as well was a belter of a kit. You know the black and green. But I know players like that, and then probably like going on a wee bit. I think my favourite player still is probably Gary Hooper. I think he was incredible, man. And see, like being young and want to be like, you know, I was a striker. I played pro youth with Dumbarton and stuff, and that was like typical story. You get an injury and you can't play. But that was always Gary Hooper I would look at and be like, he is actually incredible. Like, and I think he's one of the only players to score from like the bottom league in England up in every competition in Scotland and Europa League, Champions League. He was incredible, man. Incredible.
He's the kind of perfect example of what I talk about. Like, it's a shame he left Celtic because, you know, he went to Norwich. And I know Norwich were a Premier League team at the time, right? But he had ambitions and obviously stuff like that to get in the England squad and all that because there was rumours out happening and that, and it just didn't work out for him at Norwich. I think he did score a few goals when he first went down in that, but then it just kind of went off the boil and it didn't happen. But I'm a firm believer, mate. I'm really a firm believer. See, unless you're going to a top 6 side in England, I don't think you should be leaving Celtic. I don't think you should, man. I think you should be leaving Celtic or Rangers. I know
think
that
players will look at Kyogo and Jota and maybe even Matt O'Reilly, but his loan move has kind of turned out right, and I think players should look at that and go, right, well, these have kind of went to these clubs and it's not actually worked out for them at all. I mean, Jota's obviously ended up being back, and as you say, like Gary Hooper as well. I think the furthest you would maybe go, like Stuart Armstrong still had a somewhat decent career, but it wasn't as good as what it could have maybe went on to be anyway.
Say Foster as well, the goalie. I think when he went down, it just never worked out for him, and he even came back and he showed that he was a good player. But maybe this is your level. And I mean, you going down there, it's a different kettle of fish as well. I mean,
in a sense, I can get it. Obviously, they're looking at the financial side of things. They're looking at playing in one of the biggest leagues in the world and all that. But to me, like I've said this before, I don't even know. I think I might even say that on your podcast, mate. I think we might have spoken about this. But like, my example was like Scott Brown and James McArthur, sorry. Right, so he went down to Crystal Palace, and he had loads and loads of games in the Premier League. He's made a bit of money in that, right? But Scott Brown stayed up here, won all these trophies. Who would you say right now has had a better career? Scott Brown or James McArthur?
Scott Brown. Aye.
Scott Brown. All these medals, and it's not as if Scott Brown's skint, do you know what I mean? He's going to have all his money. He played in the Champions League against Man United and, you know, Juventus and all this stuff. You know, he's done it against English teams, he's done it against Italian teams, Spanish teams. You know, he's made all his money. And then when Scott Brown's, I always say this, when Scott Brown's 70 odd and he's sitting with his grandbairns, he can show him all these medals and all this,
Aye.
all these memories and all that stuff. James McArthur's just, all right, I've made all that money, but like, that's just my opinion, man. I know a lot of people don't agree with that.
No,
I
I get the
agree.
logic. I get the logic as well, but it's like you said, it's the money. There's the money aspect. They don't really. The footballers nowadays don't really care about the success. Really, just try to get as much money as possible because they've got a short career, and that's why you see them all going to either Saudi or America for mental amount of money because they don't really. They just want to get the money. I do get your logic,
Yeah.
but get the medals and get the memories that way. But loads of players nowadays only think that way.
I think with how quick as well, you need to get up to the standard. So, like for example, like when Gary Hooper was at Celtic, I get he was playing Champions League football and that, but he's playing in Scotland where the standard's probably here. But he needs to go to the Premier League and make an impact like that. But the standard's up here. So by that point, he probably needs to take about 6 months to settle to the pace of the game, the strength of the game, how with Scotland, the Champions League once it takes a while to kick in, and then it's maybe once a week for however long. But with the Premier League, you've got a really hard game that week, like just so on. So I think players in Scotland are never, ever, ever going to go to the Premier League and make an impact straight away. And I think that's what probably messes up half of their moves because now in football, you need to make an impact straight away, but you're never going to with the standard that the Premier League's at. Maybe the move is what worsened Tierney's injury. You know, he was already struggling at Celtic, but because he's had to go from what you would say, like, I would class it as like a basic standard of football to then like world class football, already having a bad injury, you're going to hurt yourself even more. And that's probably why it's harder for players to settle in a harder league.
Aye, you're spot on, mate. And also, when you're talking there, it was like Gary Hooper, for instance, goes down to England. And different if you're going to a top six, you know, a Chelsea, a Man City, Arsenal, whatever, and you're getting all these opportunities to improve and score goals. But he was going to Norwich, and you know how many opportunities you actually going to get when you're a Norwich striker. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure they ended up getting relegated. Well, maybe it was that season or the season after, but they went down anyway. And you know, see, unless you're a top talent like Van Dijk or whatever, I don't think that you're going to be going to a top six.
That's what I was going to
Yeah.
say. Is like if you're cut for a different cloth type of thing, then after you'll make an impact, but few and far between in it. Van Dijk and you can maybe say Wanyama to an extent, but
And I think
Yeah,
that's
I'm a
because
bit
they've got the structure, like body wise as well, to maybe just walk into it. Like for example, I don't know what you think of him, but I genuinely believe if Engels went to the Premier League, I think it would take him a full season to even settle. And by that point, I don't think he would still ever become a starter. And that's it. Like even if he went to a Chelsea, then a Brentford, and then bottom half like a Burnley, I think you need to be a certain like size and possibly
physique.
certain type of agility just to stroll into the Premier League. But nowadays you can't stroll into teams because if you go into teams and you don't stroll into them and you take a while to adjust, you're on the transfer market in January straight away.
I've said that. I think it was in a couple episodes ago. I just think Engels is too weak, like physically.
Aye.
I think he gets pushed off the ball a wee bit. Technically, I think he's really good and the passing range is really good, but the physicality side of it, he's just not got it.
Well,
No.
that's been to him and the coaching staff and that to
Aye,
have all doing and
definitely.
if it's a World Cup, you know what I mean?
Definitely. But if he does that, then maybe it's a different story. But currently, I wouldn't think he would do well in the Premier League.
I don't think he would do. I agree with you. I think it would take him a bit of time. I think he has got football ability, but I think it'll take him a bit of time to settle, especially Nottingham Forest will probably come back in for him in the summer. I'd imagine if they're willing to, bid that amount of money for him and that. But go back to yourself, Shay. Like, obviously, you're saying Ronnie Dyler, that was your kind of early memories of football. And that, what, any particular games that stick out as you were getting older? And that do you remember at Parkhead or anywhere?
So I'll get the negative ones out of the way because I think we need to be transparent here. Semi-final at Hampden, I think it was the guy called Beattie scored the penalty in the last minute. I was at
Oh,
that
Craig,
game,
Craig
and
Beattie.
then I don't know what it was called at this time, but it was one of the cups, and I think Inverness beat us 1-0. I think it might have been the Petrofac Cup at the time or the CIS Cup. I don't know. So
Aye, that
got
was
us
the
some
League Cup.
bad.
That was the League Cup, the
Aye.
CIS Cup. Yeah.
So that was some bad memories, but good memories. I mean, I was at when Celtic beat Aberdeen 9-0. I was at Barcelona up until I nearly said Old Firm there. See, Brooklyn. I need to add Brooklyn
I
on
said
the
it earlier on as
score.
well when I was going to say it. But
Up until the game just before COVID under Neil Lennon, where Ryan Kent and Katic scored. Every Celtic Rangers game I went to, we won. My first one was 3-0. Gary Hooper scored 2 and Chris Commons scored. Remember, as Aguirre down the line crossed it in and Hooper at the back post.
Charlie McGrew
Um,
scored that day, I think, didn't he?
Iron header.
Aye.
oh no, so that was
Aye.
the last one. That was the last like Old Firm, but that one
Oh,
was Hooper 2 and Commons. Remember Commons cut in on his right foot and it went down the
Aye.
middle of the goal.
Aye.
I was also at the Mark Wilson one, see where Papach hit it off the line and just collapsed behind the goal.
aye.
So I was
I was
at that
at that
one.
one, mate. I didn't want to tell you that one.
It was incredible. Obviously, I was a kid and I remember going in like the back, like the main stand of Celtic Park, and because it was that crowded, I remember getting pure like crying and upset because I was a kid
Aye.
and we just juked in on our turnstile, and then I think there was it three? There was 2 red cards during the game, one after that goal, but the game before that is also where Bruni done the Bruni. So
Right.
that was an incredible game. The Barcelona game, I knew who Barcelona were, but at the time I never realised the scale of it that actually was. And then and that's a wee bit like Seville. Like they Barcelona, like the players that were in that team, they'll never really be forgotten. I mean, even like people forget that Scott Brown never played Gary Hooper. I mean, Miku, I think, started up front.
He's just
Samaraj was captain. But the games always stand out. But that Mark Wilson one was just incredible. The scenes when that ball hit the net, especially it was such a fluff shot to actually hit the net. It was amazing.
Aye. That was some game, man. And that was a game that Lenny and Alan McCoy said the wee set to Esther and that as well.
Yeah.
Who was a good sent off? Whitaker get sent off that game.
Bagheera.
in the game.
Bagheera and all, wasn't it? Aye, Bagheera.
Right. Because he kept hitting the cards.
That's right.
He stopped the
referee kept doing
when
that. He's like,
Aye.
but that's meant to be an instant red card and all. Like, totally
Aye.
fucked it.
Aye, the shame game it was called.
Aye,
I think.
shame game. It's great, but it's class, man. I loved it.
But
The thing
no,
is,
that was,
I don't think we get many red cards anywhere in Old Firm games, do we? I don't remember much in the
But
last
I think
few years,
I
by
think
the way.
that's down to like the police and all that sort of stuff. Like keep your head a wee bit more. But I
plus
know I think it was,
Morelos is away now, so he took
aye,
up
that
half
as well. Aye.
half the cards.
You don't have anyone to wind up and that sort of thing. You can think Raskin, maybe he may be one that can be in
Yeah.
this way, but nah, you don't really have the type of players either because we've got all the Japanese players who help them up, and you hear half of Celtic Park that keep them down, keep them, kick them,
Leave him.
Aye, leave them.
There's probably been one since, but the last one I can remember, I think Balogun gets sent off at Parkhead a few years ago. But apart from that, I kind of really, there probably has been one
Balogun
or two
and
since.
who was the midfielder for? He never came for Liverpool, but he was Scouse. Lundstrom, he gets sent off in a game as well. I'm sure.
That's right.
He
He
did.
gets sent off at Parkhead.
Aye,
I took Johnson out the game.
Aye, because we went 2-0 up, and then it was 2-1, and then he gets sent off, and then I think nothing happened in the whole second half. I think we missed a penalty, and that was it. But that's the last one I remember. But I remember the Balogun one because he was never catching my header that day, and he was like, "See you later, man."
I just took him out, did he? I'll need to try and I'll need to try and look up the last time a Celtic player gets sent off at Ibrox because that's really escaping me. I can't remember that one at all.
That's been a good wee while, man.
That would be a good like quiz question there because I can't think of none.
I remember back in the day, like Charlie McGrew gets sent
I
off
remember
against
Mulgrew.
Rangers.
Aye.
When was that with Aberdeen?
No, Celtic. He gets sent off for Celtic.
I think we were getting beat, and that fucked us
just
even
took him
more
out.
because it just came out. Aye.
Aye, it can't be that long ago, but surely.
I was thinking of the
Simonovic
Lafferty header and he didn't touch him. He just laughed he went down.
Aye.
That's what I'm
That's
saying.
when he was Aberdeen.
Aye.
He was Aberdeen. Aye.
Aye,
Simone
that's
was
what
didn't get
happened.
sent after did for that tackle in Miller you talking about?
No, he elbowed Morelos in the
Did
3-2 game.
Aye.
Aye.
Who is it? The Tory MP. He's like red card,
Aye.
red. He was
To be
pure
fair,
shooting it.
he did elbow him, but you could argue
Aye.
that he kind of was just trying to protect get his body in front of him. But I think
Edward scored at the end.
aye, because that
Aye.
was I don't even think we were 3-2 up at that point. And then I think we
Mm.
changed things to like, and then we ended up with Edward and Dembele up front as a 2. And then aye, that was Scott Bain made a great save that day.
Aye, that was his that was his debut. He wasn't meant
Aye.
to make it, but that defeat
Aye.
was no well worse of him. That.
I think that's when Scott Bain first came to Celtic. He was actually alright, but then
Aye, he was a good goalie, but I think the first thing you had to do as a Celtic goalkeeper was pick the ball at the net, because I think Windass scored 2 minutes in. But big boy Atta made an absolute howler right at the start, man.
I remember that game.
I
See, I
remember,
think actually because there's just so many, they all kind of merge into one all these games, didn't they, man?
I remember
I
that game
think just before
because.
there. Sorry, you go.
No, I was just going to say I remember that game because I was in a pub, but there was a Celtic pub above us, and the one I was in must have had a dodgy box, and it was just like the players were coming out, and then I heard people above us like, "Yeah, fucking bastard!" I'm like, "What happened?" I'm like, "There must be a fight or something up there," and it came up on my phone, 1-0 Rangers. I'm like, "I'm keeping this to myself. I'm not sharing this out."
I seen a hint just before there, and I think the 5-0 game where we won the league against them. But this clip was the one at Hampden where we won 4-0. But the 5-0 one, we were 5-0 up in like the 54th minute or the 60th minute, and it ended 5-0. And the quote was like, "There's so many games we should have killed them like even more," and that is true. There's games where how are you 5-0 up in like the 55th minute and it ends 5-0? You know,
Was
and see
that?
that day the Rangers goalie get the man of the match for Rangers.
Aye, 'cause
Was that no 5-1 that game? Did Kenny Miller no score for Rangers?
No, there was a 5-0 where we won 5-0 to win the league, but James Forrest scored when he went in and out
I
at
Lustig with the
Parkhead.
hat.
Aye,
Lustig with the
Lustig took the
balls.
hat.
Oh, 5-0,
But
sorry, Parkhead, that was, wasn't it?
Aye. So we
Aye,
won the
sorry,
league
aye.
that day, but I think Rogic scored the 5th, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes after half time, and it ended 5-0, and that's what the quote was that there's so many games we should have put 7 or 8 past them. Because, but as you said, it is hard to remember what games what, because there was that, I'm very lucky, there's that many games where we've absolutely hammered them.
Because when you were saying 5 there, I was thinking of that game at Ibrox where Kerry Miller scored, and I think we were 3 or 4 up at half time, was it? When Lee Griffith scored the belter, and then Scott Sinclair scored a penalty and all that.
Aye,
Lustig scored.
but Lustig scored that day as well.
That's right, aye, they did,
I remember Lustig's goal because I'm like, what the fuck's he doing? And I'm like, what a goal! On his cell, he had the fucking top over his head and all that. What a hero.
I was at my mate's wedding that day, man. It was one of the ones where we would get up to it, and every fucking 10 minutes I'm just getting phone calls and texts, and I can't believe I'm missing this, man.
I was at a wedding just there. It was like filled with Rangers fans apart from like my girlfriend's family, and our dad was sitting at the table with a hand down. It was the Killie game, and we won 3-2 just there, and we were literally just getting the meals put down on the table, and then you just see his hand and then his body start to move, and then it's when Araujo scores, man. It was incredible.
I mean,
It was so good.
you can't beat that, man. Class.
I know.
But that's happier times, mate. But we better talk a wee bit about this season because it's not been the best. The best of situations. What have you made of it overall, mate? I don't even know where you'll begin here, but what have you made of
it? It's a shit show. Like, I think even if we win the league, we will enjoy it, but I also cannot wait for it. Just see the other week there, I was like, somebody just take it, man, get it done with. That's what I was feeling. Like, I was just sick of it. It's just right from the beginning, going back to the transfer window, and then Rodgers leaving. I felt a bit of happiness because it had to happen, but now I look at it and I'm like, we probably would have still fucking won this league with him, but it did have to happen. The Nancy era makes my body shake. Like, it's just, even saying his name, I get PTSD, but just an absolute shambles, and like the signings as well. I mean, I've been having serious like, arguments with my pals, and if you disagree. But I strongly believe Johnny Kenny is better than the two strikers that we brought in January. Like, I
Aye,
strongly
cool.
believe that. I'd have rather had him. Like, there's games like that St Mirren game there. I would rather start with a Johnny Kenny than Gonchara.
Mm.
So that just from the boardroom down, and obviously you said you were having like an argument, but you were actually were agreeing, because one of you were blaming the manager, and another one of you were blaming the team. I think now, back then in January, I think maybe Jamie, when we had you on our podcast, at that time the players maybe didn't need to get the blame, but I think now nobody can hide. I think it's from top to bottom, because it worries me, like these coaches like Maloney, Fozzie, Strachan, McManus, they've had plenty of time to work with these players now, and there's still absolutely nothing to be seen. There's no tactics or anything. I mean, St Mirren played us off. I've got a season ticket. St Mirren played us off the park at times on Saturday there. So it's a shit show, and I can't wait for it to be done. Obviously, I want to win it, but I want somebody to take it and we start fresh. But it's just where we start is what worries me. Where do we go after that? But I just can't wait for it to be over.
The thing is, it's like we spoke about this last week. I know Corey's, on the verge of, just saying fuck it, just forget this season and stuff. But I mean, what do you think? What could he change? What could Martin O'Neill change right now to actually get us, over the line, scoring goals, and you know what I mean? Because right now, as it stands, mate, if we continue to play like this, we'll no win the league.
I think I think we need to take the risk with a shake-up, and basically what I mean by that is, so there was like 7 players at the weekend I noticed cannot or choose not to use their opposite foot, and it slows down the play. Scales, there was multiple times there was a pass out to Maeda, but he needs to let it go into his left foot. Yang can't use his left foot, Nigrin can't use his right foot, and it's slowing the play down. And I think players, even though they're going to be under pressure for not winning the league, I think as long as they're playing, they're happy. Like, for example, Scales has been decent, but I don't think we should continue to play Scales and trust it. I think Arthur needs to play. I do think I wouldn't be bothered if McGregor did get dropped, and I'm not saying McGregor's done as a footballer, but Callum McGregor's never ever really been subbed off as a player, and he's been subbed off twice in the past 3 games, so he's clearly still carrying an injury, and I don't want to have a player who's carrying an injury trying to win a title for us. Who we play in there, I don't know, because Engels never had a good game in there. Hatate gave the ball away against Motherwell in there. So he shouldn't be a Celtic player, but he always tries to go forward. And McCowan, I wouldn't be raging with playing McCowan, because I think the reason he has that many misplaced passes is because he tries a riskier pass. I think he really tries to break the lines and make something happen. And I think this Sunday at the semi-final, I think Iheanacho needs to get 45 minutes. We need to see what he can actually do, because we cannot play Vinchara up front. We can't. He's the worst I've ever seen. He's always somewhere else but his actual position. And I think we need to put Yang on the left, and I do think we need to start James Forrest. I do strongly believe that, and I think we need to play Iheanacho. I think Maeda needs to come on as a sub nowadays. I don't think we can change much structurally, but changing the formation as could be nuts. But I think a few players do need to get dropped. We need to accept that risks need to be taken in this running, and if we take risks and it works, then you're on to a winner.
A couple of things in there. I agree with you, this Chara thing. I think that he's not good enough. I think that he just needs to be dropped for the team entirely. But you're saying about Iheanacho. If Iheanacho's fit, definitely. But I think he might go down the road of playing Maeda up front this weekend, and bringing maybe in Tenecti, bringing him back in and playing Yang in the right. I know what you're saying about James Forrest, mate, but I think it's kind of like an unwritten rule now, isn't it, that James Forrest is just a player that comes on for us. You know what I mean? I think obviously due to his fitness and his age and that, I can't remember the last time James Forrest started a game, and I think maybe that's a kind of understanding with him in the club and that he's probably better off taking him on with 15, 20 minutes to go. And he does make an impact when he comes on, James Forrest, to be honest. I think he's I think he's still
Yeah.
got it, man. For 20 minutes of the match and that, he's an asset in that sense. Um, as for Callum McGregor, I mean, I know what you're saying. I do know what you're saying, but I think we can't be going down the road of. And if it is an injury, fair enough, he needs to be dropped. But if it's
Yeah.
just like a form thing, I don't think we can be affording to drop our captain with 5 games to go. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that would be a kind of sensible thing to do. If he's fit and ready to go on that, I think you need to get him in there. Even if he's not performing, he's still a leader. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In there, and I like him and Oxley Chamberlain together. I think they two are good together and
Yeah.
stuff. So, I agree with Maester. What's your thoughts on that, Corey?
I definitely agree with the defence. I think Arthur, since he's played, I don't really think he's done much wrong. I think the Dundee United game was probably his poorest performance, but you can't really blame it on him. I think the whole team was lacklustre that game, so I wouldn't mind him coming on. He looked a bit comfortable on the ball, and I was saying that last time. It just feels like the defenders are just they just don't like it, and I do agree with it. He slows the play down. You see Tierney or Maeda, they're miles of space, and after just taking too long to find that
Yeah.
pass. The midfield, I've not thought Cal McGregor's had the best season this season. I thought he's been pretty poor before his injury, but I kind of struggle to see who's going to replace him.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, Engels, he can't really play that way, and Hatate. I'd like to see Bernardo a wee bit because I do like Bernardo, but when he's had his chances, he's not really took them. So I think the midfield is just a bit of a hit and hope, really. Whoever you're going to play, there's going to be a hit and hope. I think Maeda should be dropped 100%, especially the game Saturday. Just looked uninterested, didn't look like he was up for the fight. I like Tanetki, but he needs to start games the way he can perform. I've said that a couple of times, and Jamie, you've liked him, and you said the same thing. And I would like Ian Nacho to play more minutes. And if Osmond was a wee bit more fit,
Aye.
I'm a wee bit higher on out because I thought before his injury he looked really good. And I don't know about James Forrest. I think he's been a great servant for Celtic, but I'm kind of been always on the fence with him.
Yeah. Aye.
So,
Well, as for when it comes
but
to
I,
Tenecti, I mean, I think he has got ability in that, but he's not played since we came back for international duty, and
I know.
you know,
but
he hasn't been consistent enough. He hasn't. He's no staked his playing enough and that. And
he's
I
got
don't
the
know, man. It's just
ability.
this.
He's got
Eh?
the ability, but when he comes on in the 70th minute, he looks a superstar. But when you start him, it looks like he doesn't know what he's doing. That's the thing I've been saying where Tanetki, it's annoying because we do know what he's capable of. We
Aye.
just need to know how to do it for the duration of a game, not
Yeah.
being an impact player. We don't need impact players. We need players to make an impact for the get go.
The
I'll put
McGregor
that
thing
way.
worries me. Sorry, go Jim.
Sorry, I'm just going to say, like, the thing that sums it up is the fact we're having this conversation. There's 5 games to go, and we still don't know who our best team is.
Aye.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Mhm.
madness.
But that's what she was saying is for the top down. There's been clusterfucks of decisions all the way through. There's the transfer business in the summer and January has been poor. The manager situation that's been embarrassing, really, and I think that is the how you would describe Celtic season is embarrassing. It's we're shooting ourselves in the foot and we're doing it in public view. We're having bored and fans fighting each other. We're having the players
Yeah.
just going nowhere near the standards where they should be, and it's just everyone can see it. And it's just been pretty embarrassing this whole season.
That's why I think I'm overthinking maybe the McGregor thing as well, though. Like that game on Saturday, that would be a game where McGregor would usually stay on. You know, you're only 1-0 up, you need the 3 points, keep him in there. And him getting taken off kind of made me go, right, why would you take him off in a situation like that? So that is what worries me. And I think we've made that mistake too much with starting players we know we need to take off because it's a waste of a sub. You know, I was always like, I know you need to get these players fit, but a couple of months ago we were starting Tierney knowing we were going to have to take him off, but you're wasting a sub doing that. Like, play who's actually fit to play. But it is what I mean. The thing with the board as well. I mean, Mvuka, we've not seen him
Aye.
since Ibrox, but the fact that we were actually about to sign that guy, but look, I mean, he failed his medical. I mean, it sums that in itself sums up the
Right.
season. But
Yeah.
I think straight away, Ian Acho as well came on, and he's quite theatric. You know, he's kicking the post and that when he's not scoring a goal, but when he presses and nobody else presses, he is raging. He is like that to people, where are you? Whereas Vinchara and Nigrin just jog, and then they go on, mate. You need somebody up there as well to be like, get your arses in gear. I mean, I like Nigrin. Where would we be with his goals? But I think the saying that people go is, oh, but you can't drop him for these goals. But how can we not? You know, he's not been playing good. Like, and realistically, like in any of the Rangers games and stuff, he's not popped up with a goal. So as you said with McGregor and Oxlade Chamberlain, I would like to see a midfield with either Engels in with them two or Hatate. I think it would give us a lot more structure. You know, Nigrin jogs, but he doesn't actually press. He just jogs and jockeys the player a certain way, and then expects the other two to press. But the thing is, I know he does score goals, but I think, is it too late to drop somebody with that amount of goals? But I just don't think he does enough to stay in the team.
Feel like
I
he's an
think
enigma, Negrin, because he's a good player, but it just seems like at the same time he's like, you're not doing enough, and it's
Aye.
kind of strange. But like, I know Jamie, you rate him very highly, and so do I. But I do agree with you. Like, he doesn't press as much as you kind of expect, and it is a weird thing with him. He's scoring all these goals, so you're like, oh, he's a really good player. Then his performance on Saturday, you're like, but he's also that as well. So he needs to get the pressing and all that sort of stuff sorted.
no. Listen, I totally agree with where you're coming from. I see it. I see what you're talking about. I totally get it. But you know, I just think at this point in the season, when we've got 5 games to go and you've got a semi-final and then hopefully a final, you know, he's the only one that is producing goals consistently.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think it'd be a major gamble alongside the things like McGregor. He'd drop these guys, the guys who, like, let's say McGregor's been there and done it. He's the captain. Major gamble to drop him, and then a major gamble to drop Negrin, who I agree with you that he doesn't make enough of an impact on a game. Outside his goals, but see if he's scoring a goal and he's not doing anything, and he gets us through to a final, or he gets us a win against somebody that we're trying to go and get the title with. You know, I'd have him in the team all the time. And then as it, you know, you're saying about Hatate, mate. I mean, I've been a massive critic of Hatate for a long time now. I know he had a couple of good games there with, you know, when he came on at Ibrox, he did well, and then he had a decent enough game at Pataudry and that. But for me, Hatate's done, man. Absolutely done. You've seen his stadium at Paradise. You know what I mean?
Once you mentioned Tatati, I was just like, oh no. Jamie's just like, no.
But I
And he
think
said no.
I think that's what worries me as well. Like, how must that have felt for Ralston? You know, you're warming up, and then a centre mid's getting dropped in. So you've actually then became a fifth choice right back, and one of the people in front of you is the people in front of you is a youth player, a lone player, an injured player, and a midfielder. Like, you must be like, what's going on? And then you
Well,
start on Saturday.
Well, we did criticise Martin O'Neill for that. I know Martin O'Neill's no above criticism. Do you know what I mean? That game at Paradise, putting him in there was just mental. And then because the fact is he's done that. You know, as you say, a fifth choice Ralston, and then he plays him on Saturday as first choice. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, it's like you've got to make your mind up, Martin, what you want to do here. You can't be playing Hatate at right back and then, you know, get Anthony Ralston about in the balls basically, and then playing him. You know, expect him to do well when he comes on again. But I mean, end of the day, it's vast improvements need to happen. But if we're going to win this league and we're going to win a cup, but we better move on, mate. To you're a musician. I've seen a couple of your things on Instagram and that as well. You're doing some gigs and that now. When did that all begin, mate?
So, like, in school, I didn't actually like music and stuff, but my mum and dad got me a guitar, and I taught myself. And then what happened was my cousin, who was a big singer in pubs and stuff like that, like really good, was in bands and stuff. He sadly passed away at like a young age, at like 30. But his funeral became like an open mic. Like, all these singers and bands went up to like celebrate his life, and I was just kind of sitting in awe. And I was like, I would love to do that. And then we Celtic played Rangers at Hampden under Ange and we get beaten extra time. Don't know if you know, Greg Taylor scored,
Aye.
Ryan Sakala scored. So my pals on the road, we went back to his, and my pals were like, go grab your guitar and stuff. So I went and got it, brought it round, and then the bus that I got on done a fundraiser, and I played at it, and then it just went for there. You know, I'm playing in pubs here, there, and everywhere, and I love it. It's nerve wracking, but it's a good feeling. You kind of forget what you're doing when you're up there. Like you forget that all these people are there watching you, listening to you, singing along with you, and then you come off and you get all this praise, and you're like, "That's mad that I've just went up and done that. It's crazy."
So is it just the kind of Celtic songs you do and that side of things or whatever, or do you do kind of other tunes?
No, I do a bit of everything. I had a gig there on Friday. That was just a bit of everything. You know, a bit of Palanatini. I done some the Cranberries. You know, U2, and then other singers, not just like Celtic and Irish stuff. I done loads of different songs, but it's that was at my first. That was a 3 hour gig, and you think you could fill that, but you get 10 songs in, and you're like, I'm fucked here. Like, I'm done. Then your voice starts going, but obviously I'm not at that stage yet. I'll see where I get, but I do wonder. Some people might do drink and stuff like that, but I always wonder now, like, how these artists can go playing Transmit and come back down to life, because even after playing in a pub, like, you're at such a high. I mean, like, I didn't even I wasn't drinking at the gig. Like, sometimes I have a wee drink, but I never. But I came off it feeling like I've been drinking. Like, you feel you're on such a high and such a buzz, and it takes a while to come back down. So I do wonder how, like, these big artists can go out and play in front of thousands of people and get on with it. It's absolutely mental.
That's so funny you mentioned that, mate. I went to see Richard Ashcroft last week, and he sang Bittersweet Symphony at the end, right? And
Yeah,
like, honestly, it was one of the best adrenaline things I was experiencing, right? You know what I mean? You're singing it out loud and all that, and you're
yeah.
feeling it, and you're literally shaking and all that with like the atmosphere and stuff like that, right? And then he stopped and he went, he's cheering and all that, and he's put his arm up and he walks out the door, and obviously the lights go up and all that, and everybody's walking out, and I'm like to my missus, where does he go now? What does he do now?
Aye, it's
Is he just
mental.
going to go and sit in the back there and just chill out? All right, that was all right, and all that. I
Aye,
don't. No
Get
wonder
the
these
kettle
guys are
on.
on drugs and drinking, all that.
aye,
I
it's
mean,
mental. I
huh?
don't know if you know the band. Do you know the band James? Do you know them?
Aye,
Aye.
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 So I seen them a couple of years ago, but I went and seen them again last Wednesday. And obviously the lead singer does like all these mad dances and stuff like that, like pure moves his body. And people looking at that might be like, what's that guy up to? But see, when you're there in the moment and you're just like he's just letting himself go and being in the moment, and then it's just that's what it's like. It's just curtains are down and you're right back to reality. He's probably be having a cup of tea or something because
Aye.
he's in his 60s and that. But it's just I don't know how they do it. Obviously, as you said, maybe back in the day, drinking drugs would settle them down, but it's still an absolute it's madness how you feel, and you can
Funny.
see like if you're singing. I'm I picked this up off of somebody else, another singer that I know. I like to kind of do a song and then go into another song and go into another song without stopping. And it's quite good when, like, so for example, I sing Mamma Mia, but I go
Mm.
from Mamma Mia into Dreams by the Cranberries. And it's quite good that you're seeing people loving the first song, and then you change to the second one and you can see them like shocked, like, oh my god, and then they start loving the second song. It's such a good
Aye.
buzz that you feel. It's amazing.
I've always said, see if the good Lord had blessed me with one thing, he's not really blessed me with anything, to be honest. I've not really got anything, but I think if I was to speak to him and say, going to get, people want to be football players and this and that, I would have said I'd love to be able to sing and have a guitar, man. That
Aye.
see you're doing that, mate. I would absolutely love to be able to do that.
Aye.
Problem
I'm
is,
the same.
I've not got any fucking notes in my voice whatsoever, and I can't play an instrument. I've got no patience to even try and learn one anyway.
Aye, so that's how it happened with me. Like, I still, like, my worst enemy could come up to me and say, "Here, that was brilliant," and I wouldn't believe them. It was actually, I know I mentioned that night round at my pals, but where it first sort of came from, I was just sitting playing guitar one night, and I think my wee brother had pals in or something, and one of them opened the door and went, "What was that?" And I was like, "What do you mean? Was that, who was that singer?" I was like, "That was me." That was unreal. Like, it just came out of nowhere.
Mm.
I still to this day don't believe I'm that good, but you then go and play in a pub and you're getting all this like
Aye.
positivity and like, rewards for it. But it is a mad feeling. I'm pretty lucky. Aye.
I've got a question for you. See, when it comes to singing, though, like I said, I was singing Bittersweet Symphony last week for like 5 minutes, and I had a sore throat for 2 days. Like, see, as soon as I sing, like with passion and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Honestly, man, my voice goes. So, is that a thing that you experience? Do you do anything like to help your voice and stuff like that?
I do a wee bit of warm ups. I mean, luckily as well, my girlfriend, she does musicals, so she's done a few musicals like Legally Blonde, All Shook Up and stuff like that. So she's um a lot more musically talented than me, but she does like proper warm ups and stuff. And I say, look, if you can teach me half of that, it will benefit me. But last week was tough. You know, I got a bit of an hour, 2 hours in, and I was like, I'm gone here. And a guy gave me like a wee soother, and it does open up, but it does get to you. I mean, the next day I definitely felt like my voice a wee bit, and that's probably a good thing because, as I say, I went to Celtic v St Mirren. It was probably good that I couldn't shout that much at that game, but I stuff like that as well. I mean, I'm nothing compared to other people, but like Richard Ashcroft, he'll go from one arena to the next, to the next, to the next. So they must need to do some amount of vocal warm ups, but just a few warm ups here and there, and then make sure you drink some water and that in between your sets is all I can say.
Definitely. Right, last couple of questions, mate. First one
Yeah.
is the big one. Who's going to win the league?
Oh, I do believe Celtic will win it. I do. I don't think the other two have got the bottle.
Love it, man. Love to hear
That
that.
positivity. Finally.
Aye. The last question, mate. You've picked a couple of songs for us to play for you. I asked you to send over a couple of tunes. So basically, we're going to play Dirty Old Town at the start, and then the next one, just as we finish this. So, just a wee bit of background of why you chose these songs, mate.
I think Dirty Old Town is a song that everybody knows, everybody loves when it comes on in the pub and stuff, and it's just such a the Pogues version of it is just incredible. And it's just a song everybody like, no matter what I played a slower version, but no matter what version you hear, no matter what situation you're in, when that song comes on, you don't skip it. I mean, I've played after Celtic Rangers games where we get beat under Nancy, where we won the cup final with Adam Ida's goal. And as soon as you play sing the first line of that song, the place erupts. It's just it's a beautiful song. It's magical.
And then the next one, the last one, we'll be playing that as we leave here.
So the next one, the Night Visiting song, it's a song by Luke Kelly. A lot of people kind of, I'm quite old school with music, and Luke Kelly's probably one of the best Irish singers ever. And that's a song that kind of, it gets overlooked a wee bit. And it's actually originally from Scotland, that song, but it was made famous from Luke Kelly. But just with a song like that, when you actually sit and listen to the lyrics of it, that's also another very beautiful song. The reason I picked it is because it's a song that not many people will know. So hopefully hearing it for me will get people interested in it and then listen to it more.
Brilliant, mate. So, Shay, thanks very much for your time, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Let's hope that the Hoops can do it for us, man. And next time we speak to you, mate, we have you on and we'll be celebrating. But everybody, thanks very much. Remember, subscribe to the channel. And this is Luke Kelly, the night visiting song by Shay. Thanks very much, guys.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
I must away now. I can no longer tarry. This morning's tempest I have to cross. I must be guided without a stumble. saddled and